Okay, here we go. All right, hi everyone. This is Maggie McKenna from the St. Lawrence County Arts Council. We are on episode 11 of Art for Art's Sake, and today we have Marina Loew, who is the curator and at the Thousand Islands Art Center, and she's an absolutely incredible paper cutter. So she's going to talk to us about Thousand Islands Art Center, and she's going to talk to us about her artwork. And I'm so excited to share what she's doing here. This program is a new virtual program from the St. Lawrence County Arts Council where we're trying to share local artists with you as much as we possibly can. If you're at all interested in showcasing your own art or showing us your art around your house or your studio or performing a concert or something like that, please do reach out to me. You can email me at director@slcartscouncil.org or shoot me a message on Facebook. Also, since our programming is very much on hold at this point, this is our program and we sure hope that you will help support us. We are asking people to sponsor these events. So businesses and individuals can sponsor one event or a whole week of events, whatever you are able to do. So again, reach out to me directly and we'll set that up. So again, this is Art for Art's Sake and we have Marina Loew. I'm going to get her off mute, get her pinned so that she's the main show here. And without further ado, here's Marina.
Thanks, Maggie. Hi, everybody. I'm Marina. Let me get set up here. I'm going to share my screen. I put together a little PowerPoint. Okay, Maggie, can you see this? Is this being shared? Can you see what's going on?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, good.
Let me just double check with the live stream in just a second.
Okay. I'm also really bad at talking on the fly, so I've come up with scripts that I'll be kind of going on and off of. So if you see papers flapping around and you hear them, that's what's going on my end. And also I have to apologize for my camera. For some reason, it keeps going bright and dark. I have no idea what's going on with that. So sometimes I might look like I'm in the dark.
Marina, this is perfect. It's a little tiny box of your face on top of your big screen,
cool.
shared screen.
Okay. Do I need to move it? Is this, I don't know.
No, you're perfect.
Okay, it works. Okay, good, yay. Okay, so as I said, I'm Marina and I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to have you guys watching, and I have to say thank you to the St. Lawrence County Arts Council for having me. This Art for Art's Sake series is really fun. I love the idea of getting all the artists involved and seeing studios and seeing performances, and it's really cool to be part of that. So it's also really great during a time when we're physically apart to have something like social media and Zoom to bring us all back together. So thank you for being here. So today, I'm going to take you on a journey to connect three main topics. An exhibition that was in the process of being installed when the coronavirus hit at the the Thousand Islands Art Center, home of the Handweaving Museum, and it was going to be on Lucille Landis. And I'm also going to talk about a brief overview of color theory, and then how both of those things have inspired me in my paper cutting. And at the end, I'm also going to show you how to make a color mandala, which I love mandalas. And if you don't know what they are, don't worry, we'll get to that. I'll fill you in. So anyways, a little bit about me. I'm the current curator of the Thousand Islands Art Center, home of the Handweaving Museum, or TIAC as we like to call it. I have been there for the past 3 years and it has been phenomenal. I have learned so much. I've met a lot of artists, and I don't know if any of you are on here today, but hi again. And I've also learned a whole lot about weaving. I have a BA in studio art with a focus in visual arts from Wells College. And I'm about a month away from graduating with my master's degree from Johns Hopkins in Museum Studies. It sucks because I've worked so hard for this, and I'm going to have a virtual graduation ceremony, which really is such a downer, but at least I'm graduating. So I've always been involved with art in one way or another. I really grew up with it. And I've worked in a lot of different mediums, but my primary medium is paper. And I really stumbled across paper cutting accidentally when I was making a card for a friend. And I looked at this drawing I had done and thought, instead of cutting around the outside, what about cutting around on the inside? So I did that and was instantly hooked. And now it's over 10 years later, and I still love it. And my paper collection has gotten out of control, and I'm totally okay with that. So this is just one of the little pieces that I made somewhat recently. I'm just going to show you a couple of my pieces to give you an idea of what I do. So like there's some bees. I took a photo of my mom's hive. She's a beekeeper, and I made that for her birthday. Then there's just the lighthouse. You can see that sometimes I'll incorporate pencil into my work, especially more recently. I've really liked to get some colored pencil in there. Then here on the right, I was practicing using layers, and that one didn't work out so well. You can see that there's some weird crinkles going on, but you can kind of get the idea. I'm still working on that. And there's a couple more. So basically, when I first started to cut, I cut almost exclusively in black and white. Over the years, I started branching out, and I started using different kinds of paper, like cardstock from handmade paper. I also did like synthetics, like Yupo paper, for those of you who know Yupo. Then I eventually started branching out into color. And ever since figuring out my technique and getting more color into my work, I can't be stopped. I love color. I love patterns. You can see in these three here, each one has a little bit of pattern going on in it. I also love gold and shiny. So the one on the right, I call anointed. The monk is being anointed by this gold. It's really pretty gold metallic paper. So today, almost all of my work has some color in it, although I really still love the simple traditional black and white silhouette cuts. So I also need to tell you a little bit about my professional side as a curator. When I'm not paper cutting, I am curating at the Thousand Islands Art Center, home of the Handweaving Museum. Like I said, TIAC. It's located in Clayton. If you haven't visited before, it's kind of right off James Street on John. And our mission is to advance art, craft, and our unique textile exhibit through education and exhibition. And we have thousands of handwoven textiles. We also have a library and an archive, and we offer classes throughout the year in all kinds of different subjects, from jewelry making to paper making to dyeing to painting. I mean, you name it, we've probably done it at one point. And we also have a lot of annual events, including the Weaving History Conference, which we sadly had to cancel this year. Thank you, coronavirus. We also have the Antique Show and the Arts and Crafts Show and Sale, which are in August, and those are still on. So I hope you guys all come to those. And then throughout the year, we have rotating exhibits from our collection, as well as artists from around the region. So this summer, our featured artist is going to be Will Salisbury. And if any of you are familiar with his work, it's amazing. He is a metal sculpturist, I guess you could say. He does a lot of welding work. And if you're driving down 81 off the bridge from Wellesley, you'll see his crows on the side of the road. So he's amazing. And then if you want to know any more about TIAC, feel free to reach out to me at any time, or visit us on the website at tiartcenter.org. So before the coronavirus hit, we were in the process of installing an exhibition on Lucille Landis, this weaver here. And let's see. So let's just tell you a little bit about Lucille. She grew up in Georgia, but lived in Connecticut for most of her life. And during World War II, she was a nurse with the Red Cross in the 162nd U.S. Army Hospital in Lincolnshire, England. She used to make small wooden boats with her son, and would exhibit them at local craft and art fairs. It's a very, I don't know what they called it. It was very strange, but basically craft shows. It was at one of those shows that she saw a weaver and her loom set up. And she saw that and said, I've got to try that. And in her own words said, scuttled the boat building, started looking for a weaving teacher, and before too long found Clara Sharapov. So it was Clara Sharapov who really fostered Lucille's interest in weaving, and they would become great friends over the years. And Clara was also a master of color. And I think this is what really rubbed off on Lucille, who dedicated most of her career in weaving to color study. So in 1986, Lucille sent the museum a postcard that read, I have one set of swatches filling 16 three-ring binders containing a set of samples woven for my book, Twill and Twill Derivatives. Would your museum like to have them? For those of you who don't know weaving, twill is a type of weave. And then, of course, we said, yes, we want to have your binders. And today the museum owns quite a number of pieces by Lucille, including wall hanging, swatches, yardage, as well as books and research materials. Now, bringing this all around, out of all of the things that we have in our collection by Lucille, perhaps the most well-known part of her collection are her color studies. And it was these studies that were the focus of the exhibition that we were putting together at the museum. So I wanted to show you some of the pictures. Unfortunately, we weren't finished installing it, as I mentioned. So the only photos I have are kind of, a color explosion right here. So I took some pictures of it in progress. I should add here that the exhibition was guest curated by Sonia Wall and Marcia Glass, who were working tirelessly on this project. And I was really just available for backup and assistance when they needed me, and, hanging things which are on a wall that you can't really see in the right picture on a gallery wall off to the side there. I should also mention that in the right picture, there's some remnants of our previous exhibit. So what you see in the middle of the floor on the tables and the mannequins and what's on the wall is not part of the Lucille collection. Everything that's surrounding it on the floor where we're laying it out for install is part of her collection. Sorry, moving around. So as you can see, Lucille mounted, matted, and labeled the majority of her study. And there on the left, you can kind of see that what she's done is she's wrapped yarn around boards, and then she's mounted and framed them. And yeah, it's pretty amazing because at first glance, you might think that they're drawings or paintings, but that's actually yarn wrapped around. She does occasionally use paint. It doesn't look like in any of these photos she has that, but you'll see some in a little bit. They're also fairly large, as you can tell from the scale of the ladder. As that's the wall I was actually talking about, where we got some of them up anyways. And here's some of the paint. So she also painted these amazing color wheels, and most of them are out of gouache, and each one is different and plays with different color combinations, as you can kind of see there. It's also really neat because up in the corner, she has labeled and wrote down what type of paint she used, the colors, and a little description of the wheel itself. And it's just really amazing how organized she was. And I can tell you that it really saved us a lot of time when we had to identify all these pieces. You can see here too, she has a 3 on this one. They're all numbered. So we can just basically line them up on the wall in order of how she had them. So accompanying all the matted pieces, we also have woven textiles. Some of them are by Lucille, but we've also incorporated some into the exhibit from other weavers in our collection. So this one on the left is 2 pieces of Lucille side by side. And the one on the right is, I believe, Antonia Cormus, but don't quote me on that. And as you can see, Lucille not only liked to play with color, but she liked to play with texture. And she really loves boucle curly yarn. So you'll see a lot of that in her work, which it's just visually delicious. I don't know how else to say that. I love color. It's so inspiring. Here's a couple more of the pieces. Yep. Oh, here over on the right, you can see some of the yarn wound next to some of the paint chips, basically, that she had. So she's matching them up there, which is just amazing. I should also throw in here that Lucille did not think that she was good at color, which is why she pursued color studies. And if I could meet her today, I would tell her I beg to differ, because her color study is out of this world, and it's clear she knows what she's doing. So that kind of leads me to color theory. As you can imagine, when I was walking through the gallery, looking at all these pieces and this bright, beautifully organized rainbow all around me, my mind was whirling with all the possibilities of art. I mean, you can't be an artist and walk into a room full of color everywhere and not be inspired. So I started thinking a lot about color in a way that I hadn't really paid much attention to before. And then I went into our library and I thought maybe I should look some more into color. What do we have on color in our library? And I came across this quote: "If you, unknowing, are able to create masterpieces in color, then unknowledge is your way. But if you are unable to create masterpieces in color out of your unknowledge, then you ought to look for knowledge." It's so confusing, but it really spoke to me, because I think that's kind of how I operate with color. I just kind of look at something and say, oh, this is what I want. These are the two colors that I want together. It looks great. But for those, not everybody has that. That doesn't mean that I'm a master at it. That just kind of means that I'm good at, basically, I'm only good with the paper. If you were to hand me a paintbrush and say, hey, choose these colors, I would not have the skill. So what I would want to do, and what I'm doing, is doing some more research and study into color.
Have been what Lucille read then.
Oh, what was that?
Lucille must have read that
Oh,
quote.
yeah. That was actually, as that's a good segue to over right here. I have one of Lucille's books right here, one of those binders she mentioned. And that quote came straight out of this. She has collected pages and pages and pages all on just color. So, I mean, if you guys really wanted, we could spend the next 2 weeks just going through this one binder, but I'm just going to kind of go through this somewhat quickly, what I learned. For instance, it's obvious that there's way too much to cover. And so, like I said, we're going to just go through a couple of these little things. Most of you are probably familiar with the color wheel. And the main purpose of a color wheel is to show the relationship between primary colors. So that's red, blue, and yellow. Secondary colors, which are created by combining two of the primary colors. So that would be orange, green, and purple. And tertiary colors, which you get by combining a primary with a secondary. So, you know, a tertiary color would be like violet and orange. And this is one of the theories. The praying theory is probably the most recognizable. It's the one that most people use. It's really pleasing to look at. It's very easy to understand. And this is the one I like to use this one. But then there's other theories out there, which I'm starting to learn more and more about, like the Munsell theory here, which is just mind-boggling staring at it. And honestly, my mind doesn't think in 3D. So it's really hard for me to look at this and really understand what I'm seeing, except the color amazingness. But basically, the Munson system is based not only on the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors, but it also incorporates the three properties of color, which are hue, value, and intensity. So you can see that there's all these different changes in color based on hue and all this. I mean, it's crazy. So that's just a look at one other theory, but there's actually tons of theories of color out there. It's just amazing how many. I'm starting to learn more and more. These are just a couple of them. There's pages and pages of these color theories. It would be, you can see most of them have, almost actually all of them have the primary colors, but it's how they're, you know, set up that really makes the difference. So I personally am the most fond of color wheels that also incorporate shades, tones, and tints like this one here. This one is a bit of a combination between the praying and a dumbed down version of the Munsell theory. So you can see on the outside, it's basically the praying, but then like the Munsell, it has some of the different colors going towards the inside, but it's not in that 3D crazy. And it's flat, and we can look at it and say, this is what we're looking at. So weavers like Lucille use color wheels just like other artists do. And down here in the lower corner, I actually was in our archives and stumbled across, conveniently, this color wheel in one of the research folders. So they were actually together. So you can see the color wheel that the weaver used actually rotates around, and it kind of shows you what color based on what colors you're choosing. So here's red, violet, red, orange, and in the middle is red. So it's kind of showing you which color where. And then they've made this awesome wrapped color wheel to go with it. So that was a really, really fast, not very in-depth and basic look at color theory. Like I said, we could go on forever. I don't want to draw this out too long. But basically, I spent a lot of time looking in our collections at things like the binder I showed you and the color wheels, and standing there just staring at Lucille's work and just thinking about color. And basically, I just was looking at these color wheels, and I could not escape the comparison between color wheels and mandalas. And as I mentioned, if you don't know what a mandala is, here we go. They are an integrated structure organized around a unifying center. So they're basically circles that have some kind of a repeating pattern all the way around within them. And they have a rich and sacred religious history in Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So here, monks are making a sand mandala. If you can believe that, that is sand. You can see, if you really look at the monks there, they've got these little tools with kind of like a little cup at the end, and they gently tap it just to get almost like single grains of colored sand down. And to quote Wikipedia, sand mandala is ritualistically dismantled once it has been completed, and its accompanying ceremonies and viewing are finished to symbolize the Buddhist doctrinal belief in the transitory nature of material life. Basically, this stays for a certain amount of time, and then the monks come in and completely destroy it. So they don't last for very long. They spend all this time on this beautiful thing, and then they destroy it. And that is all part of their religion and the symbolism behind, not everything lasts, and beauty doesn't last forever. And you can go way more in depth than this if you Google it. It's amazing. And every part of these mandalas, the colors, the shapes, all of it has some kind of a symbolic meaning to it. And it's just really amazing that they make something so intricate to only be destroyed later. But not all mandalas are religious in nature. And I actually personally just love making them purely for the process and the wonderful designs that you can wind up with. These ones aren't mine, but they are some that I found online. And it just gives you a really good idea of how intricate you can get with them. I love that this one here on the left is using almost what looks like puppy paint to give a little bit of 3D to it, mixing paint with pen or just pen on pen. I mean, it's just gorgeous stuff. So basically, let me catch up to where I am here. Right, okay, so taking what I was learning about Lucille, thinking about mandalas, I decided what I wanted to do was try to do a color wheel mandala. So I thought first I want to show you how to make a mandala. Now, if you Google this, they have tons of videos on it. They have tons of blog posts and websites dedicated to it, but here's just like a brief thing on how I do it. So first you have to draw a circle with a compass, which I had somewhere here, but it's disappeared. Anyways, there's a little drawing of one. Then you dissect the circle into even sections. So this circle has 8 sections, but you can kind of choose however many you want. And then basically I take one of the wedges and I just start designing. I mean, just go for it. I have a lot of books that I refer to, like, so here's I don't know if it's coming up in reverse, but This is a printer's ornaments book that I collect these books from all kinds of thrift stores and things. And in these books, they've got, you know, let me see if there's a good page here. Oh yeah, like pages of different designs. And I just find different elements that I really like. So maybe it's like a flower or, and it just has this curve that I really like, or dots or something. Another good thing to reference actually are adult coloring books. And I specifically say adult because they're much more intricate. So I've got coloring books that I haven't even colored in just because they've got great shapes that I can reference. And so I just look at those kinds of things and I just start sketching. It's really fun. It's kind of mindless. And you'll see in this illustration I did, I don't tend to do them next to each other because for me, it's very a visual thing. I need to see just one piece of the pie. So I leave a blank in between. But anyway, so I'll do that. I'll do a bunch of these and then I'll see one that just really speaks to me. And I'll choose just that one little designed slice of pie out. And then I'll grab a piece of tracing paper. I'll trace it out. And then basically you then draw your circle again and you rotate your design around. Now, the fun thing is you can mirror it a couple different ways. You can either, you know, just do the same thing all the way around. So you never flip the pattern, or you could have a flip of the pattern in there. So you'll see these look kind of similar. I should have done something that was a little bit more, you know, different for you to give you more of an idea, but you can see at least the centers came out differently based on how I flipped the pattern. So basically that's how I do it. You just mirror it around. The whole time I'm using my tracing paper. So I'm tracing on one side, then I'm flipping and I'm tracing on the other, and the pencil will then transfer onto my page. So here is one of my cuts. You can see the sketch that I did with the pattern that I did. And then I don't know if you guys can see what's wrong with this paper cut, which I just didn't notice it until I finished, but the order is wrong. I have blue and green switched, which is kind of annoying. Also because I like where they are right now. So maybe I just shouldn't say anything to anybody in the future. But it's kind of hard to tell from that picture, but here's the actual piece. It's cut out. So this is what the back of my paper cut looks like. Here's the front. There's all the negative space in there. Yeah, so that's that one. And then after that, I realized I really need to know what color is going where. So I decided to do another one. And in this one, I've actually gone and did little letters to indicate what color. And this one also has 2 extra pieces of the pie. So the other one was what, six pieces, and this one has 8 in it. So then there on the right, you can see I've started cutting it out. I've already put the red in. I also use an X-Acto knife, not scissors like traditionally used. I have no idea how people did that. I'm really impressed. I have to use an X-Acto knife. So then from there, I keep cutting out all the colors. I keep adding all the colors and layering them until finally I have the finished piece. And it's hard to see in that photo, but I swear that's red. It looks more orange. Here's that piece. This one does not have any see-through to it. Yep. So another mandala. And then going from there, it kind of morphs. It's not as obviously a color wheel, but I've just kind of been trying to play with incorporating different kinds of colors. The one on the left was actually me looking around at some of the papers that I have that I don't use very often and thinking, hey, it'd be great to get little parts of these going in here. I think I want to try that one again, where I make it more obviously, you know, red across from blue, across from yellow. And I also really just love kind of intricately entwined patterns. So I think I want to do a little bit more of like the one on the right with the kind of weaving in elements. So basically what I started with at the museum with the Lucille Landis Color Study exhibition led to a look at color theory and color wheels, which led to mandalas and which led to these paper cuts. And I'm hoping to explore this further when I find the time, because it's amazing, even being home from work, I still am finding I have very little free time. I want to start incorporating different papers into my pieces as I explained. And I also want to eventually get to a big piece. So these ones are around like, these ones are larger than the others. So this one is maybe 10 inches around. I would love to get to 20. I think this would just be really fun to have a huge, huge piece on my wall. I'd also like to get a little bit more intricate with it. I think you know, the mandalas I showed you earlier with all those little elements, I think I can get more of that going. So that is actually kind of what I've got. That's my presentation. Again, I want to thank all of you. I hope that I made some logical connections here and I got you inspired to look at color in new ways and maybe make your own mandalas. And if so, please send them my way. I'd love to see them and support you in your journey. And once again, thank you to the St. Lawrence County Arts Council and for Maggie for having me. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask, or you can always reach out to me at the museum. My email is marina@tiartscenter.org. So thanks.
We do have one question here. How stable is how stable are the paper cut mandalas?
Oh, that's a good question. So because I use so many different layers of paper, they're actually really sturdy. I also should mention that the paper that I use, I always have some kind of a paper that kind of holds everything else together. So there's a top layer, and that's the black. So the black is the top layer. That is actually made out of something a little bit lighter weight than cardstock. So cardstock I find is like a little bit too heavy. When I'm using my X-Acto knife, I'm pushing so hard sometimes that I start to like give myself blisters. It's not fun, but it's sturdy. So this is just a little bit lighter than that. And then thankfully adding all the different colors, which you can see I just kind of glue. So you cut out one section of a color that you want, you attach that color, and then you move on to the next color. So then sometimes you're cutting through multiple sheets at a time. So for this one, I don't know if I can show you very closely. The center was done last. So you can kind of see that I've cut through something like what, 5 or 6 sheets in the center here. So this is sturdy. It's not going anywhere. This piece, on the other hand, which I never actually showed you guys, is not as sturdy. The paper is kind of, you can see, kind of did not adhere as well as nicely. So I think it also depends on how intricate you get your paper cut. But the more layers, the more sturdy. So I hope that answered the question.
Very cool. And do you teach any classes on paper cutting?
I actually haven't yet. I've been asked a number of times. I've tried before in the past, and there is something about the way that you think of it. It's even hard to explain it. Basically, imagine a smiley face. You draw a smiley face with 2 eyes and a mouth. In paper cutting, you can't just have free floating elements. You can't have just eyes and a mouth. They have to be connected to the outside border. So sometimes when I'm trying to teach that, or I haven't had like an official class on it, but it's very hard to teach some people how to do that. And maybe that's just me and trying to learn how to teach it. But one of these days I'm hoping to. I love paper cutting and I want to share it with everybody. And it's actually really therapeutic. It's nice because you're constantly taking away and you can see your work grow really quickly. I have a hard time with those projects that take months. Most of my paper cuts take, like this one, I did in maybe an hour. That doesn't include the design. So yeah. One day I will. In the meantime, I teach other things at TIAC. I teach needle felting and image transfer design. And this winter, I'll be teaching an upcycled sweater mitten class.
That's awesome. And I know that you have a educational background in visual arts and museum studies, but how did you actually get into paper cutting?
Yeah, so it's really weird. My senior thesis in undergrad was actually all on wire sculpture, and I just did a whole gallery full of wire birds. And so it is a really weird, I didn't even know about paper cutting at the time. And then I was making this card for my friend of actually the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. And I don't know what made me do it, but I just saw an X-Acto knife sitting there, and I had a cutting mat, and I thought, you know, I want this to be very delicate and intricate. What if I cut out around the illustration that I had done? And it started from there. It kind of snowballed. I was unaware at the time that paper cutting is actually a thing. It's been around for hundreds of years. Some of you might know it as Scherenschnitte in Germany. There is a Jewish tradition for, I will not pronounce it correctly, but I think it's called a ketubah, which are these like kind of a marriage certificate, gorgeous paper cuts. I mean, in Japan, I think it's called kiri. And basically I started learning more and more about it, and I just kept going. Oh, I have another one here. I haven't showed you any of the framed ones, but this one's a birds. I do a lot of birds. I do a lot of fish.
And you have an incredible piece at TAUNY currently, right?
I have a piece at TAUNY. That was the biggest piece I've ever done. It was really challenging. It's 4 foot by 4 foot. And it's basically a reflection on what I feel is North Country to me. So, you know, maple syrup and cows and apples. And when I'm not here in the North Country, they're the things that I miss. So that's all in that paper cut quilt. And if you guys are ever in the area, go to TAUNY and see it. And there's other artists there as well. Amazing people who've done amazing things with barn quilts.
I have one other little comment here. I have to hold on just one second.
Sure.
Here we go. When the TAUNY Center reopens, I hope people will visit to see her 4x4 creation, which is amazing. The photo is beautiful, but it's really impressive to see up close. That's from Ruth McWilliams. I actually saw it. Went in to visit with Jill and Camilla. Oh, when was this? Like January or February, and they're like, do you want to see the barn quilts? They're not up yet. And I'm like, so I went and saw it. I'm like, is that Marina's?
They're amazing. I have to say, so for my side, what was really cool about that, the opening exhibit is TAUNY kept it all really hush hush. I didn't actually know who the other artists were, and I had no idea what they were going to be making. So when I walked into that exhibit, I was so excited to see how other artists had interpreted the same theme. So seeing all of our barn quilts up together, there's like some metal ones, there's painted, there's like ceramic. I mean, I was like, wow, they're so different, but you can see the common theme and the common thread.
It's an incredible exhibit. I am so bummed I didn't get to go to that opening because I was really, really sick.
Of course.
Before all of this happened. But once they open up, I'm sure that exhibit will still be available at TAUNY, and there's some really awesome exhibits coming up at TIAC.
TIAC.
Guess I always just say like TIAC or
I know TIAC. I know. You can say it any of those ways. We tend to say TIAC.
That's awesome. Well, and can people buy your work somewhere? Where can we purchase it?
The only place that I have some for sale are at TAUNY. I've made some pieces for them. Actually, that mushroom piece at the beginning that I showed you, and somewhere it was on my About Me page, I have 3 of those there. The lighthouse pieces, that actually most of those pieces are there. And also I've been taking some commission work right now, but I don't have an online store yet. It's been hard for me to keep up product for a store. So it's more or less word of mouth otherwise.
I think I'm going to want to get one of those color wheel mandalas from you. Because
the color wheel. Yes.
I love
them together is what we should do.
I have no I have no visual arts bones in my body though, my friend.
You'll be surprised. You got this.
Awesome. Well, if anybody, I don't see any other questions specifically, but if anybody wants to ask any questions, you can comment on the Facebook Live. This will be available on Facebook and YouTube later and on our website, so you can view it at any point. But I want to thank Marina for taking the time to show us Thousand Islands Art Center and color theory and her beautiful paper cutout mandalas. This has been so awesome.
This is really fun. I'm so glad you're doing this.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's been really fun for me too. Tomorrow we have John Burbridge back for some more poetry. I'm hoping we don't have the technical difficulties we had with his last video. We'll see. But and then on Friday, we're actually going to be talking with our architect, Rebecca Weld, about our new or up and coming art center that we're working on for downtown Potsdam. So I hope people will join in for that on Friday. And then all of next week's are actually all going to be sponsored by St. Lawrence Federal Credit Union. So if anybody's interested in participating in sharing their art or in sponsoring and keeping this program going, please reach out to me as soon as you can. You can email me, director@slcartscouncil.org, or you can message me on Facebook. But thank you so much, Marina. This has been
Thank
so
you.
much fun.
Thanks
so
everybody for being here.
All right. Well, have a good day, everyone.